So have you guys, what age are your kids, by the way? Mine are 25 and 20.
30, 22. A possible shower today with a top of 16 degrees. Another cold night and cold morning on the way. We're down to 5 tonight. Mostly sunny tomorrow with a top of 19. And then on Sunday for Father's Day, it's going to be a beauty. Sunny with a top of 22. You're on 98.5 and this is Weekdays with Mike. You're on at 98.5. This is Weekdays with Mike, and we continue our What Matters series today with What Matters to Dads, and we have arranged the best looking dads that we could find in Perth, and I'm going to introduce them. And if you're near your device, your phone or your computer, you may be at work, jump onto our Facebook page because we are live as well on Facebook. So welcome if you're joining us on Facebook Live. I'm going to introduce our panel today. First of all, welcome Pastor Phil Ayres, regular guest on our drive show, in fact.
Yep.
Looks after pastoral care and marriage and relationship training. You've been married for 34 years, Phil.
Yep.
4 kids, all married, and 3 grandchildren.
Yeah, it's great. Love it.
Wow, we've got a wealth of knowledge right there. So welcome, Pastor Phil from Kingdom City. Regular guest Craig Hunter. We all know Craig, Deputy Principal of Rehoboth Christian College, father of 5 boys, and a Fremantle Dockers supporter. Is that right, Craig?
Yes, it is.
Okay,
I'm
okay.
long-suffering, yes. Better than the Crows at the moment, let's be honest.
Thanks for that, Craig. And we'll move on to our next guest. Big welcome to Rick Ardon, of course, Channel 7 news presenter for 36 years. Wow. Rick and Sue hold the world record for the longest-running anchor partnership, having surpassed the previous mark of 32 years set by New York WNBC duo Chuck, love that name, Chuck Scarborough, and Sue Simons. Rick, you may not know, has won 10 Logie Awards as WA's most popular TV personality, father of 2, avid surfer, and I believe you like a bit of truffle as well, Rick, is that right?
I do. I love truffle. I love surfing too. I'm going after this actually down to Trig. Today, as we say, Trig is big.
Is that right? You're heading off to do some surfing today?
After this, yes, before work, yes.
Ah, very good. Welcome, guys. It's really good to have all 3 of you in for our first Father's Day. What matters to dads? So we thought we'd kick off with a question. I guess I might start with you, Phil, and we can go around if you like. In your opinion, what's one of the biggest challenges that dads are dealing with currently? I mean, times have changed since you were married. What's the current issues that dads are dealing with?
Yeah. I think just the whole technology world that we live in, one of the most important things, challenges that dads face, I think, is to be personally present. Be personally present with the people who matter most and to maintain that focus. So I find myself, and just in dealing with family, there's always pressure to be somewhere else because of technology and because the phones, you've got appointments, you've got demands, you've got multiple platforms of communication today, and it's no longer like you close the door, you leave work and work stays at work. Now work and anything can go with you 24/7 if you let it. So actually practicing being present is such a key to living a rich and beautiful experience with people. And so I think that's the biggest challenge today for me.
Yeah, good thought. Craig, what are your thoughts? What do you reckon?
I was thinking about Fat Cat. At 7, Fat Cat used to go to bed at 7:30, and it was quite straightforward. All my kids went to bed at 7:30, but now with technology, it's hard to switch it off. And my kids are sometimes watching Netflix in their room. They're on their phone. I'm on my phone. We're on our phone. And I think that distraction and busyness is just a challenge for parents and for dads. And I think that sense of community and family is really hard. I feel like work's got busier, pressures have got greater. And I think dads are finding it hard. When I chat to dads, we're all feeling guilty that we're not doing the job we want to do. And so, times have changed, and it is tough for dads to find out what is their role, how do they parent in this modern time.
Well, we've all been around for a while. What are your thoughts, Rick, on that?
Oh, Mike, I agree entirely with Phil and Craig. Technology these days is meaning we're spending less meaningful time with our families and our friends. I was listening to an ad on the way in on Sunshine FM, one of your sponsors saying that, do you know, and this is a big problem which Craig's has touched on, do you know that if you don't have screen time at least an hour before you go to bed away from screen time, you're not going to sleep properly. And therefore your brain is active. You're going to be tired and not as productive. So, it's a multifaceted problem these days because not only are we spending less time with our kids and dear ones, it's because of technology. I mean, kids live with their lives virtually in the palms of their hands. Yeah. And the problem is not only are they not communicating, but they're now getting their information, their life information, what was taught by families before, they're getting misinformation of social media. And social media is a big problem for kids. And I know some people might say, oh, you're sounding a bit like your parents because, they didn't embrace change. We embrace change, but we really need to find a way of making it positive change. It's exciting technology, what it's doing,
Yep.
but at the same time, we have to stay in touch with, a basic goodness in our lives. And I believe that comes from belief in God and maintaining our belief system where, if you understand, if you've got God in your life, everything is going to be okay.
Yeah.
I just don't think with the busyness of life, families these days are equipped to be able to keep this, loving, warm, embracing, almost being in the womb atmosphere around their families.
It's a good thought, Rick.
Yeah.
Any more thoughts on that?
Yeah, what you just said then about this nurturing environment and the God factor in that. Obviously, I'm a minister and I deal with families every day in terms of their spirituality, and at Kingdom City we're passionate about helping people live lives that understand the reality of God. And there's this amazing verse in the Bible. It says, your life is a journey best lived with a deep consciousness of God. And I think that helps to center and frame the values and the life choices that people make. But because there's so many messages coming through, and you as a parent are one of those messages, and you're competing. So because there's so many messages, that what it does is it disseminates the sense of intensity and focus, or that nurturing environment that Rick was talking about, and it can dilute that to become like instead of a black or white, it's grey, and it can dilute the intensity of the culture that we're trying to build. So
yeah, that's good, Phil. Look, we'll take a break. We'll come back and talk some more. It's our What Matters to Dad's panel ahead of Father's Day on Sunday. However, if you're near your phone or your device or your computer, we're actually going to continue the conversation Facebook Live. We're going to continue some more questions. We're going to kick off with Craig Hunter very shortly. So we're going to go to Facebook Live, and we're back after this song. All right. If you're watching Facebook Live, thanks for being with us on this Friday. We can talk for a song length on while we're Facebook Live,
Beautiful.
Craig. So we've got a bit of time.
Yes.
I thought we would ask you, being you're a dad of 5 boys,
Yep,
which
that's right.
would have a whole range of different challenges compared
Yes.
to us other dads, I'm sure. How important is a father figure in a child's life? And I guess part 2, how affectionate should a father be with their sons?
I think one of the challenges is the tough times. Every dad goes through those times when we have a disconnect, when they say stuff to us or we say stuff to them that really hurts. And it's hard to recover from that. And they can be deep wounds for us and deep wounds for our kids. And I think the key is this, is that our kids can look in our eyes and know that deep down we still love them. We believe in them and we want the best for them. No matter how tense that situation is, that we still love them and we believe in them. And I find that hard at times. And I've got to dig deep into my faith and dig deep sometimes into what I see God has for my child. And it's really important in terms of affection. That's what affection looks like. And it's something that's really important, because if we don't believe in them, the most powerful figure in their life, on earth, who else is going to believe in them? And that reminds me about trying to keep believing my kids, keep thinking the best for them, keep disciplining them when I don't feel like doing that.
Is it different now as we think about 25 or 30 years ago? Is it thinking about how important is that father figure in families? Look so different now, don't they? A lot of broken families and a lot of fatherless families. How can we do that better, do you think, Phil?
Wow, that's a complex question. There's so many factors involved, and hat off to all the families that have single parent families and are doing it alone.
Yeah,
it's a tough gig, and so we just want to value that. But I think as dads, one of the great things we bring to the table. We can bring to the table is a sense of fun. So if I want to think about, what I think men bring, is they bring that rough play, that a bit, and I guess every family's different, but a lot of there's value in dads, that rough play, that fun, that unexpected, allowing yourself to be yourself in the family and creating the fun and the culture of fun in your family. I think that's a huge thing that dads can do, because we don't necessarily always carry the detail of everything that's going on. We can come in sometimes big picture and just create that environment, and just bring that spontaneity.
All right, we'll continue on back on air. You're on at 98.5. This is Weekdays with Mike, and we are having our What Matters series continuing today. And what matters today? We are Facebook Live, so join us if you're near your phone, your device, or you're near your computer. You might even be at work. You can join us. Love to. Thanks that you're with us today. We'll continue on. We just spoke quite a lot about technology and how that is a bit of an issue. Can I ask you guys? How do you tackle? We identified it as an issue, but how do we tackle the issue of technology in your house? I mean, do you run around pulling out the internet cord, or what's the?
I've done that a few
Craig,
times, Mike. Yeah, out of my frustration. One time I got so mad with the PS3, I actually threw it into the bin. Yeah.
Is that right?
Yeah, I got so frustrated with them wasting time and not helping at home. That was a moment of rage, and I did apologise, and I got it out of the bin after about 2 hours. Just being honest.
Craig has younger kids, teenage to early 20s.
Yeah.
I have kids mid-20s to late 20s.
Yeah.
And I can safely say that they grow out of the enraging.
It's encouragement for us all, isn't it?
I'm not listening to anything. However, guidance is so important to help them understand, not just, hey, I'm being a grouchy dad.
Yes.
But there's a reason for this.
Yeah.
And the reason is seek the truth and don't be caught up, all day in this potentially artificial and superficial medium that's affecting your life. Don't believe what you read online in social media. It's mostly rubbish.
Yeah.
That's brilliant.
Yeah.
Brilliant.
Any thoughts?
One of the things we used to do when our kids were little, and in those teen years, to have sanity in the home, was we started having family meetings. Best thing we ever did, because what we did was we deliberately engaged the feedback, the opinion, and it was a place where we could talk about what was coming up, and we could talk about what was happening now, what are the struggles, and most of the time it went well, and even when we had one of the kids was really young, they didn't understand how to engage in those type of things at that age. They still wanted to have input.
Yeah.
And so we just learned really quickly how to negotiate boundaries of time and no-go zones. In other words, in terms of media, when you would engage in media and when you wouldn't. And we would talk about that. We'd wrestle it through as a family so we're on the same page. And the second thing is there were certain zones where it wouldn't go. Number one, while meal times are on, we wouldn't engage media or things. So no phones at the table, no television on, no internet. And so because we wanted to engage one another and we wanted to have conversations, because around the meal table is where your most powerful conversations happen that are the shaping environments of your life. And so we tried to establish no-go zones, no bedroom media, keep it out of the bedroom, keep it in a public place. You can use it legitimately, but don't do it behind closed doors. And that, even as a husband and wife, we try and manage that now because we find we can just be sitting on our phone, going to bed,
isn't it?
falling asleep, and we haven't even had a conversation. Yeah. So we still manage that, and we're a work in progress. We're not perfect people at all. We're still trying to navigate that, but with intentionality that ultimately we want to live our life with a meaningful and rich relationship.
Is it easy to give up, Phil? Because we might try it once and go, I tried that and it's just too hard. Is that something you've just got to literally, just keep chipping away at and keep doing it?
Yeah, we can't give up. We owe it
Yeah.
to our children and future generations to try to make a positive difference.
Yep.
Because my big worry is little kids these days who are given phones, smartphones and iPads when they're 2 and 3 and 4 years old. I mean, I was in a doctor's surgery a while ago and there's a mother sitting there and there are 2 kids sitting next to her. They weren't talking to each other, they were texting each other, sitting right next to each other. My concern is that instead of just look, this is too hard, hey, it's an easy babysitter, boy, are you creating a rod for your back later in life by just doing the easy thing. I mean, if you have to, switch on TV and give them, the Wiggles or something like that, who do have positive reinforcement messages while
Bluey.
babysitting or
Bluey.
anything at all, like that. But my big concern is letting impressionable young minds be corrupted by what appears to be, to some parents who are exhausted, a good babysitter, bad babysitter.
And it is shaping their minds. And sometimes those challenges with the memes, with the feed on Instagram, it's feeding them with stuff that's actually not good for their growth, for their spirituality. And that's the frustrating, talking them through, because you're competing against a powerful algorithm. And I find that challenge, that I've had conversations, I've taken it away, all those things you do, but you've got to keep going. And I love that. We owe it to our kids to sometimes be the bad guy, and then make sure that we keep that connection, and we also have fun with them at other times. And that's the challenge, isn't it?
Which is what Phil said. Look, we'll take a break. We'll come back and chat some more. But if you need your phone, or speaking of devices, here we are encouraging people to go and grab your phone.
That's right.
I'm not sure how that works, but it's okay.
It's healthy media, that's fine, yeah.
We're giving some really good information today.
We're allowed.
We are allowed. Look, we're going to continue the conversation on Facebook Live. So we're going to continue having a discussion. So join us on Facebook Live, and back on air real shortly. Facebook Live. Phil, I thought we'd ask you this one, and thanks for joining us. If you're watching on Facebook Live, really appreciate you joining in the conversation today. Fifo, can I ask you, what impact has Fifo had on the modern day family? Because it's something that was unheard of back in our day, or back in my day, I should say.
Yeah, it's huge. I think we have something like 60,000 people in WA or more that are actually engaged directly in Fifo and that working relationships. And I know, dealing with family and relational statistics, that the number of broken families in those working environments is harder. And what I've seen is you actually have to be more intentional if you're going to navigate the Fifo journey, and you've got to be far more intentional to really do that relational thing well. And I know numbers of couples who are brilliant at doing that. But the number one issue I've found working with Fifo people and couples is this, that the rhythm of their life continually moves from being a family system to a single parent system and single person system. In other words, you have a person who anchors the home, who's the single parent, and they're looking after the kids, and they get into a rhythm. Let's say you do 2 and 1. So 2 weeks you're away, and mum or dad is running the system of the kids, parenting, school, food, and then you come home as the spouse, and you want their attention. You've been lonely. You want you want intimacy, but they're so exhausted from the kids. You're exhausted from work and wanted time out to enjoy them. And so that's the tension, is navigating well the single systems, family system, and really amalgamating. And the only way to do that, I think, is with strong conversations, communication, and intentionality in how we do this well. And a lot of that is give and take, ebbs and flows, and recognising intense times of pressure, and allowing yourself, when the pressure's off, to have more than you would normally have of whatever you need in that time. So really quickly, example, if you're away for 2 weeks at a time and your kids are struggling, you get home from work, from your FIFO shift, you may need to have one of your kids out of school for a day with you, or you may need some compensation response to allow for the context of your life. Don't always just play by everyone else's rules who are living in a certain context. You've got to identify what your context is and incorporate that into your lifestyle. Hopefully that makes not too confusing.
Look, it all makes sense. But I guess for people struggling in that space, I mean, how do people often need a bit of help with that, like a bit of guidance and how to kind of make those changes? Because that wouldn't be easy, I would imagine.
They do. There's so much access to training. There's brilliant online, as Rick said, there's so much rubbish out there. But sometimes the thing that is our greatest vulnerability is also the potential of great strength as well, and it's how you use it. So the opportunities out there that are for training, parenting, relational investment, there's so much good resources there if people are willing to. The number one issue is, do we have a teachable heart, and are we willing to change? Because once we get set into our rhythms, the greatest challenge is not that the technology, the information's not there. The reality is, am I willing to make changes needed
Absolutely.
to grow?
That's important.
Yeah. So that's it. I think that availability is there, but we got to keep asking ourselves, what am I willing to do to pay the price for what's my priority, not just what's urgent?
Yeah, okay, that's good. Any further thoughts?
And I
on
think
that?
just, I think the challenge I chat to FIFO people is just not falling to chase the dollar, because a lot of money in FIFO.
Yeah.
It's got to be something that your family takes precedence, and that helps you make those choices. And I think that's a big one. I think the other one is building community, building networks with other guys, WhatsApp groups, whatever it takes to keep that connection with other men. And that's something we talk about maybe later on. But I think that's a challenge for men. We're quite isolated. We're not naturally catch up for coffee kind of wired that way. But for guys that are FIFO, they need that anchoring of good relationships with men, healthy, wholesome relationships as well. So that's something that I've found helpful in my life. And I think FIFO especially, to build that in, is really important.
Yeah, I agree with Phil and Craig entirely. I know of a number of couples who have chosen, the male partner has chosen the FIFO life, and it's all for money to look after the family, but they've split up. So
Wow.
chasing the almighty dollar can have consequences.
Interesting.
Yep.
Thanks, Phil. Thanks, Rick. Thanks, Craig. We're going to jump back on air in about 10 seconds. You're on 98.5. This is Weekdays with Mike, and we've got our What Matters Dad panel happening today with some of the best-looking dads that we could find in Perth. Phil, Rick Ardon and Craig Hunter.
One that John West rejected.
20 years too late, mate.
I really appreciate you guys coming. It's been great having a chat. I'll ask all of you, what's one of the toughest challenges dads face in trying to, we talk about this a lot, it's kind of thrown out there, these words, balancing work and family life. It can be a bit of a cliche, can't it? How do we do it? But how challenging has it been?
Well, Phil touched on this earlier. Spending more time with your children. It's so important when they're growing up. So important in adult life too. So, yeah, I find that's the basis of everything in life. If you have a nurturing environment, your children become better adjusted people, more content people, and then they can radiate that perhaps through their friends too. So to me, it's a ripple effect that can spread.
Craig, as a teacher, I would imagine you would come home at any given day and you would have had a lot to deal with. I mean, we've all got stuff to deal with, but I'm curious to get your thoughts from someone in the school system. Can you share a little bit about that?
Yeah, I think that it is tough being a teacher, and often you're dealing with kids all day. So often you have to be like being a mechanic with your car. Mechanic's got the worst car, so you've got to make sure that you switch off. But also I've got to adjust my head and say, this is my job. This is what I'm called to do, is to lead my family most of all. And it is tough to switch off and make time. And often it's the random chats. Often it's 10 o'clock. They'll plonk themselves down on the couch and they want to have a chat about something.
Yep.
And you're like, I've got, this is the worst time. Last night, one of my boys at 10 past 10, as I'm about to go to bed, goes, oh, listen, I'm thinking about going to a party tomorrow night. Okay, any more details? No, not yet. I just need to find out. Can I go? I need a bit more information than that at this time, and my brain's foggy, mum's in bed. And, sometimes I think mentally we're not always on the front foot. And that's tough when our kids are growing up, that we don't give them our best. And so I'd say it is a juggle. And that sense of focus, intentional parenting, like Phil talked about, I think is really important to think, be present, give them our time. And it's not always the time that we want to. When you have a chat to your kids, you want to talk to them, they don't want to talk to you. But the time that they want to talk is when we need to be available at those times.
So it really is a case of dropping all your thoughts on what you're doing, going, okay, I need to respond to my child because they want to talk now. Is that how?
And it's also finding the connection. I've been trying to involve. I help coach my kids' soccer team. My kids do gym, gymnastics, and just trying to be there for them. So you're in the car, you're not even talking, but you're making a connection. So when you've got almost like money in the bank, so when those times do come up, you've got a connection that you can build on, because you do have times it's corrective, directing, you're telling them off, you're telling them what they should be doing. And so you want to make sure that you've also got that relationship connection, that when you do have to have the harder chats, you've got that opportunity as well.
That's good. Phil, any thoughts on that?
Brilliant. I love what Rick and Craig have just said. The number one thing for me, just personally, is the idea of thinking through ebbs and flows. And in other words, life is not just a constant. I mean, some people, it feels like a constant overwhelm.
True.
But in reality, life has ebbs and flows. Life has intense moments, and life has moments of relaxation and where there's not as much intensity. What I sometimes think is we don't capitalise on those moments, and we don't recognise when those quiet moments are to actually activate them. And an example of that, I think, is having quality time versus always being on time. So talking about priorities and intentionality, I noticed with my kids a couple of times they would be really upset, stressed or whatever, and I had appointments, and there were times I had to really just say, okay, what's important here? I'm under pressure with the way I'm going to look in my job, being right on time, versus there's a need in this child. So we just had to sometimes make intentional decisions and recognise this is a moment I actually need to pause. I'm going to ring in. I'm going to say, look, I'm going to be a half hour late, and I've got an urgent thing that's come up. So just being sensitive to that and jumping on it when it's there, and that can do more in that 30 minutes than sometimes you can achieve in a week when it's just a choice. Yeah, it's that intentionality.
That's good.
So,
look, we'll take a break. We'll come back and chat some more, but we are Facebook Live today. So if you are near your computer or your phone, your device, you can check us out on our Facebook Live. But we'll be back after this song. Welcome. If you're watching Facebook Live, nice that you're with us on this Friday. Thanks for joining the conversation with our What Matters series. Continues with our What Matters to Dads today. Rick, can I ask you, as a obviously a prominent figure in Perth, have you had to adapt much your parenting style? Do you feel like you've had any extra pressure being someone that's quite well recognised in Perth?
Oh, very much so. In the early days, having kids, I was under intense pressure, as in scrutiny. Some occasional unfortunate media gossip things that came up that weren't true, and you have people saying things in public to your kids. I remember I was the state starter at Little Athletics, and my daughter was in the final, and I noticed she was crying before the final. She trained for all year. This is when she was quite small, about 8 or 9 years old, and I said, "What's wrong?" She said, "The girl next to me said her dad said blah 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 this about you." And so you have that sort of pressure. And in retrospect, as I become older and hopefully wiser, I understand it's just gossip, sort of things like that. But my point is, because of the scrutiny you mentioned, perhaps at times I was a little more fiery than I should have been when my kids were growing up, as in frustrated and upset, thinking, why do people believe things that aren't so? But I understand it's just not me, the person who my family and friends know and love. It's just the guy who's on TV with a box around his head to some other people. So there was that pressure. So I would urge all parents listening out there, if you've got young kids or even older kids, to understand that while you have a lot of pressure on you, it's also important that you don't show your kids too much of that, because my kids, I think, still remember some things about being a little fiery when I was younger. I know my wife certainly does.
I can relate to that as well. I can, because you want to defend your kids, right?
Yes.
And so you just fire up. I've done,
Well, I said something to the kid. I said, "You tell your dad he's a liar," which I shouldn't have done that. Shouldn't have done that, because that's just not the right thing to do, especially these days when everything's so politically correct. But at the time, I was protecting my daughter.
yeah,
that's right.
Who didn't understand.
Brilliant.
So, I would just say to parents who may be listening that it's very important, not only your kids, but for your partner too in life. If I had my time again, I think we're getting to a do-over. If I had my time again, I would have hopefully had the benefit of a little more maturity and understanding that my frustration shouldn't be let out onto my nearest and dearest at times. I didn't do it much, but occasionally I wish I hadn't.
I think most dads could relate to that. Fast forward then, Rick. I mean, your kids are grown up. What does parenting look like for you now with having grown-ups, and you've still got one at home?
Oh, wonderful. Yeah, look, the best thing I think my wife and I ever did is sent our kids to John 23rd College for primary school. It gave them a lovely, nurturing, belief-based life.
Excellent.
And, you know, these days, they're like a lot of young adults. They'll go to Mass at, say, Easter and Christmas.
Yeah.
But they've still got that lovely, positive, I think, deep down belief that you should do unto others as you'd have people do unto yourself.
Yeah, brilliant.
And I think they understand that as they've matured, that you know, life is good and positive.
It's good. Any other comments, you guys? We've got about a minute, and then we'll jump back on air. That was good.
That was awesome.
Yeah, I think one of the things that, if we're honest, and you're honest about your own journey, is just dealing with anger, dealing with frustration, dealing with being protective over our kids. And Mike and I have talked number of times about sometimes going into school, doing the wrong thing to try and protect our kids. And I've done that. My parents, my kids often say to me around the table, Dad, don't write a letter about that one. I can see that I'm sharing this, but you're going to write a letter to the school, aren't you? And I think sometimes in our desire to be protective, we often react rather than respond appropriately. And that's something I would have liked to have done better as well.
Yeah, that's great. Thanks, Rick. Thanks, Craig. We're going to continue back on air. Yep. You are on 98.5. This is Weekdays with Mike, and I forgot to mention earlier, here we are busy chatting with our Dads panel. If you've got a question for the panel, you can text in on 0429 985 985, but we are running out of time, but if you get in real quick. Now, Dads, if you looked back on your life, what would be some advice you would give a younger dad if you were as you sit back and reflect on your own being your own fatherhood? What advice would you give yourself? I'll start with you, Phil.
Yes,
looks like you're waiting to jump.
You're definitely the most
the most experienced.
No, I'm loving listening to these other guys. It's beautiful. But I think so mine are now from 30 down to 22. I think if I had time over again, I would take more notice of the temperament of my children and not just have them with a sense of universal expectation of this is the way they'll function. And particularly, I think, in terms even of school, two of my children were academic. One was creative and the other one was a real hands-on learner. And we didn't take a lot of notice of that, but the two that were academic thrived in the school they were in. The one that was creative was frustrated out of their brain, and the other one, who's a hands-on person, just crashed and burned. And it was a real long time before I realised I've actually got to give some leadership here and recognise the difference in them and the way they function, not just try and put them all through school the same way and whatever. But so just recognising the differences and working with their strengths, because like I said, the one that was the hands-on, I watched them just really feel diminished periodically over a period of time. They started to go down, and it was because they were just wired differently, and we weren't creating a space for that to express itself and to them to feel good about who they were as a person and to live out that kind of DNA of the way they were wired. So once we realised that, they started to excel. And so if I had my time, definitely would look at that again.
I love that. Craig, what are your thoughts as you look back?
Yeah, I think it's a similar thing to Phil. I think high expectations. And I think with 5, often I want them all to be successful, academic, but my kids are different.
Especially being a teacher, right?
It is, yeah. And I think that's how I'm wired. So you gravitate towards how you're wired yourself. And you kind of, not favour, but you lean towards that in your own kids that have that temperament or that gifting. And so that's been a tough journey for me. And if I would have changed something, I probably would be a lot more mindful of their gifts, their talents. How do I nurture that? How do I do that better? I don't think I do that well. And God's helped me in that area. What are the gifts God's given them? How can I better nurture that rather than try and push them in what I think is best for them?
Yeah, that's great. Rick, any thoughts on that?
Well, look, I agree with both these fine dads here today too. I like what Phil said about kids being wired differently, and I think that's so important that we recognise that our kids are different. They're genetically different. You know what I mean? One of our kids may take more after my wife's genes, and the other may take more after my genes. So I was fairly lucky. Our kids were 4.5 years apart, so we weren't. We didn't have them that close together in terms of recognition of their differences. We could see as one progressed through primary school, the other one was just in kindy, sort of thing like that.
Yeah, right.
And so we recognised pretty early that they were a little different. They were similar in some ways and different. So I guess we were fairly lucky there. But in retrospect, when I look back, the driving force behind our kids and me and our whole family system is my wife. I have so much admiration for women.
So true.
Totally.
What they go
Totally.
through. I mean, change of body shape, change of work conditions when
Yep.
they get pregnant and have kids, change of hormones,
Yep.
Self-esteem. I mean, women, I have such admiration for, and I'm not sure as many dads as they should understand what women go through.
Yeah, it's a good thought. Just quickly, what's one thing you look back on and you think, yeah, that was, as I think back, that was one decision that was a good one.
We made a decision to consistently bring fun and emotional bonding into our family. And so being a minister, our weekends are full with people and whatever, and we deliberately created spaces to always engage our kids and give them opportunity to express and love and bond with us on holidays or whatever. And we just became really intentional with that.
Yeah, it's good, Phil. Craig, as you look back, one decision,
you
you went, yeah, that was a good one.
Yeah, I think when my kids got in teenage years and they're getting lots of distractions, is getting them to serve in the local church, getting them to serve in community and be part of a community that encourages them, even when they're not really so keen on church at times. Getting them to serve, to help, to think of others, because often at that age it's very about me, and so getting them to think about others. Serving kids, serving on the media team, it just helps them. You're designed to serve. It's not all about you. So that's been a really good thing that's helped me navigate through those years.
Rick, any thoughts?
Well, I touched on it before. Sending our kids to John 23rd in primary school was wonderful. It was so nurturing. They were surrounded by wonderful, positive people. There was belief, there was faith, and also getting out to the great outdoors. I used to take my kids camping. We'd camp. There's a great hut on the way down to Walpole. Not many people know about it, but I'll share it.
Secret spot, hey, Rick?
It is.
Okay.
20 kilometres short of Walpole, Centre Road crossing, you turn left. There's a little hut that's got firewood left by the ranger. It's got a rainwater tank. It's got a drop toilet. It's a wooden hut, overlooks a flowing river, beautiful big trees. And so I've instilled in them a love of travel, particularly a love of nature. Our beautiful world, I mean, is encapsulated, I believe, in our great southern. You just look around and you think, this is God's creation. We can be so distracted in cities. It's a bit, big cities to me sometimes it's a bit like rats in a cage, as opposed to being out in the country, field mice, out in God's nature. And I think my kids love nature, and that's important to recognise that that's part of love of God too. Yeah. And one thing I will say to your listeners, and this is off the track a bit, but we're going through COVID times. We're blessed to be here.
Yeah,
when I hear about what's going on in other parts of the world. And there's a country and western singer who's sang a Christian song. I can't recall his name. I got it from a hippie named Desley down at Margaret River. Hello, Desley and Bear, her boyfriend. And on the CD at the time, as it was CDs then for younger listeners, you remember what they were, but it said, the God of the mountain is also the God of the valley. So, we may go through hard times, but God will always be there.
Yeah, so good, Rick. We'll take a break. We're going to continue, though, the conversation via our Facebook Live page. So be listening or be watching via our Facebook Live page. Back after this one. Alrighty, we Facebook Live? Yes. Thanks for joining us if you're watching via our Facebook page. Changing tact a little bit, and I don't know, so I'll throw this out there for all of you guys, but we got a question coming in. Thank you for your question. This came in from one of our listeners that says, hey dads, we have since discovered that postnatal depression is a horrible thing for fathers as well, so bad it can rip families apart. What advice do you have for dads who struggle with sleep in this space of postnatal depression? I don't know a lot about it, to be honest. Any thoughts?
There's a news article on this just yesterday or the day before
really?
showing this, so I think your listener has tapped into this. Yeah, it's very important. Again, I would stress postnatal depression is a terrible thing for women. And while I can understand dads, I can't really fathom that they would go through as much as women. However, for dads, it's important too, because suddenly this beautiful, loving relationship you had before children everything's changed. You know, your wife may not be talking to you. She may be depressed. As I said, her body shape's changed. She may have lost her job with no prospect of coming back. She's got this new creature clinging to her 24 hours a day, sapping her of energy. And dads, look, it is important to recognise what your listener has said too. Dads feel it too. I know I felt it. I thought, what's happened to our lives? But all I can say is, you know, have faith that it does eventually change. It's part of the cycle of life that in the end results in a beautiful family that you have forever and a day. So it's just a matter of perseverance and understanding. And getting back to the sleep question, that's so important too. I remember thinking I've got to be at work and on air by 10 in the morning in my earlier days. I was walking our first child. My wife was exhausted around at 4 o'clock in the morning upstairs, but there was still this innate love that meant I would go through anything to look after my little girl and my wife and my family. So for fathers, I don't know what to suggest. It's perseverance. It's understanding that eventually it will get better. And if you do need help sleep, well, there's the natural, what do they call the encirclements? The natural sleep tablets you can have.
Oh, right.
Yeah, that's I know what you mean.
Okay.
Yeah, herbal kind of ones that just help that. Yeah, my wife.
So
takes them.
Melatonin. That's
the one. Thank
you.
Yeah, there we go.
Thanks, producer Bex. Just appreciate your contribution there. The only female in the room. Thanks, Beck. Any thoughts on that, Phil?
I think
how much time we got left, Beck?
About 35 seconds.
Okay. You're going to have to talk real quick.
Part of the postnatal depression is that this blessing of a baby is now dividing priorities and time, and it's the feeling of loss with the inclusion of the new child that men wrestle with.
Yeah, that's good. Thanks, Phil. Thanks, Rick, and thanks, Craig. And we are 10 seconds.
Yeah.
Perfect timing. You guys we're all professionals. That is Taylor Swift and Willow. You are on 98.5. This is Weekdays with Mike, and we've got our panel, our What Matters to Dads panel today. We're going to finish off with some tips from the dads. So would you like to go first, Phil? Have you got...
Okay.
What can you give us some tips out there, particularly if being maybe a new dad?
Yeah, I think new dads, it's the most, there's an old Italian proverb and it says, little kids, headache, big kids, heartache. In other words, little ones, just the physical constant demand. So 3 tips I would give. Number 1, for you as a dad, because this is such a demanding season you've got to give out, I would say to you, anchor your identity in the person of Jesus Christ, because he promises to be the bread of life, and he gives us strength to give out when we feel like we come to the end of ourselves. Number 2, let your children see you be passionate and deeply in love with their mother. Yeah. Now, in some cases where there's a single parent, there's been a breakdown, try and honour and respect your ex-partner, and try and always allow the children to see you respecting and honouring. If you are married, let them see your passionate overflow of love, because that does something in them that prepares them for their life. And third tip is this: be a learner. Keep on learning. Let the most difficult moments of your journey put a determination in you to keep growing and learning from it. Don't allow it to pull you down, because we are all a work in progress. There's no one got it together. I mean, we've just been talking about a few of our horror stories, and which probably we wouldn't put on air, but the truth is no one's got it together, and we all need God's help, and we all need one another to strengthen and cheer each other on to do the journey well.
Thanks, Phil. Craig, you got some tips?
Yeah, love God, love your wife, listen to your wife. I wish I would have done that more. I've also got here, learn to laugh at yourself. I think sometimes I took myself too seriously. I wanted to be this great dad. I wanted to be the perfect dad. Yeah. It's not there. And I think with that goes, I wish I would have dealt with some of my own stuff earlier. You know, my anger, my frustration, my identity issues, because that overflows. So let be teachable, and let God deal with those things that actually spill over into our parenting. We can sort of hide it, but kids bring it all out, and they really do. They know how to press those buttons.
That's right.
So my advice is just be teachable, like we're saying. Let God deal with those things in your life as well as you grow, and you'll be fine. You know what I mean? Laugh at yourself along the way as well.
Yeah, that's good, Craig. Rick, any thoughts, any tips?
Yes, you guys have encapsulated exactly how I feel too. I think it's so important for dads, whether new or older dads, understand what you've touched on. If you have God in your life, and I've become closer to God through grown-up years. It started, when I was a child, went through high school, great. Lost my way a little in the early 20s, drinking, going out, socialising, that sort of thing. But I can tell you unequivocally, for people listening, that if you have God in your life, you'll get through anything. I mean, you think we have problems when we're new dads and our lives change. I mean, you look at the old days, when the Israelites being led out of slavery in Egypt 40 years before they found their promised land.
So true.
So,
right.
so you just have to understand that you will get through it. If you have belief, it makes it easier because you understand you will get through it. And the other tip I'd give to new dads out there, in fact, any parents at all, show your children affection. When they're going to sleep, read them a story, sing them a song. I used to stroke my 2 daughters' foreheads when they're going to sleep, singing "When You Wish Upon a Star," and they love them. And and
So
that
good.
sets them up
That's
for also
awesome.
showing affection.
Love that.
And
Yeah.
also, you laugh at yourself. I mean, we're not perfect, as you've both said. We're not perfect. We do our best in life, and everybody listening should understand that, we all do our best in life. But if you have belief in God and in Jesus Christ and his teachings, you will get through anything.
So good, Rick.
That's awesome.
Well, guys, we are out of time. Really appreciate you all coming in for our What Matters to Dads panel series today. So big thanks to Phil Ayres from Kingdom City, Craig Hunter from Rehoboth Christian College. Really appreciate Rick Ardon from Channel 7 coming in today. Really appreciate it, guys. But we'll stay on Facebook Live because we're gonna finish up with one more. We're gonna have a bit of fun with the dads.
Okay.
So you don't want to go anywhere. And if you are near your phone or your computer, jump onto our Facebook Live page because we're going to finish up with a bit of fun. We've been talking about some fun, so it's going to happen real soon.
Okay, so
Are we on? Yes, we're on. Good morning. Thanks if you've been watching via our Facebook Live page. And big thanks, guys. It's been really good, actually. It's been a great discussion.
Welcome.
Thanks for having us.
And the diversity and the experience, and it's just been really, really good. So we've appreciated you coming in.
Thank
we
you.
really have.
Thanks.
But we thought we'd have a bit of fun. Are you okay for a quick
you guys
game?
have to
Sure.
promise you don't cheat because you can see up there.
Oh,
Sure.
can we cover the screen?
Sure, no, it won't look. It's all right.
Okay, no cheating, Phil.
What do you want us to do? Not look at the
Don't look at the screen. We're going to play celebrity heads.
Oh, okay.
All right.
You just got to guess who you are. But so no cheating. Make sure Rick can't see that.
No, can't see that.
Okay. Oh, rightio. Okay, nice. Okay,
Very appropriate.
and here we go for Phil. Oh, nice one, Phil.
Yes.
And finally, we've got Craig. Rightio. So you can also obviously see, but don't look at that screen, whatever you do.
No.
Okay, so if you get a yes, if you get a correct answer, you can keep asking more questions. You know how it works? And if you say no, then we go to the next person. I'll start with you, Craig. You can ask a question, and it can only be a yes or no.
Okay. Do I live in Australia?
Yes.
Western Australia.
Yes.
Am I on TV?
Yes.
Great. Am I a male?
Yes.
Am I? I didn't know I'd get this far.
You can
Am
keep
I
going.
sporty?
You can pass.
Am I sporty? Am I famous in sport?
No.
Okay.
No. So, Rick?
Do I live in Australia?
No.
Oh, that was quick.
Phil?
Am I male?
Yes.
Am I on TV?
Oh.
Sometimes, yeah. I reckon that-
You're on TV quite.
You've got your own series now, a Netflix series actually. Yeah.
Okay.
Keep
Okay.
going, Phil. Yes.
That's helping. Am I a movie star?
No.
No. Craig?
Not sport. Like am I a famous actor?
No.
Oh.
Rick?
Am I male?
Yes.
Am I on TV?
Yeah.
Yes, I'd say you're on TV from time to time. You would appear. Yep. Yep.
Am I sporty?
Yes.
Am I a golfer?
Yes.
Am I Tiger Woods?
Yes! Oh, well done!
That was a
Well done!
Very good. Hope
Wow.
surprised for this.
Congratulations, we have our winner. You can take your hats off now.
Dude.
Oh no, there's nobody guessing that.
Have you looked yet?
Too late.
Have a look.
Have you looked?
No,
Oh, good.
Okay, we'll keep going.
Okay.
Oh, you'd
Okay.
be wild with me.
I'm thinking I'm Rick. Am I Rick? Am I Rick, Ardon?
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh,
I thought you were going to get it straight away.
Yeah, no, I sort of narrowed it down a bit. But you are sporty as well, aren't you?
A little bit.
I should have said
He's-
surfing. I should have said
yes.
surfing. Yeah.
Not famous for that.
Well done. Thank you so much, and thank you for joining us on Facebook Live. We look forward to our next Facebook Live What Matters series. Well done. Thanks, guys.